So what works for person A might not work for person B. But in this case, we're assuming they are the same person in every aspect. The only difference is how they approach their foods. Hello there, and welcome back to these health diaries. My name is Daisy, aka D, and I'm a certified health coach who is hell bent on debunking all of the myths out there about health and wellness. And today we're going to start with our first myth, which is all calories are equal. Many people say these, many people believe these, but I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. A calorie is not just a calorie. So let's get into it. First, let's start by understanding why people think that all calories are equal. The first reason behind all calories are equal is the law of thermodynamics. Why people argue that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So the 100 calories that you take in a donut will be the same as the 100 calories that you get from cauliflower. And as much as they acknowledge that there might be differences in the energy expenditure to process these foods, they term them as insignificant. So according to them, all calories are equal. If you're supposed to eat 2,000 calories, you can have 2,000 calories of pizza, or you can have 2,000 calories of apples, and there will be no difference because a calorie is just a calorie. So that's the first reason, thermodynamics. The second one is the calories in, calories out debate, where people argue that weight loss comes down to just the calories you're taking in versus the calories that you're using. So if you need 2,000 calories to maintain your weight and you eat 1,800 calories, then you have a 200 calorie deficit. It does not matter where you get the 1,800 calories because it's a simple calculation of calories in versus calories out. That's the second reason. And then the third reason why people really advocate for all calories are equal is because they want more flexibility when it comes to weight loss. And this comes from the past. When you look at the diet culture, you look at the people used to eat, the people who will do the cabbage soup diet, the people who will do the grapefruit diet. There were so many diets that just focused on just eat these things and that's how you lose weight. And people argued that it's not the foods that are causing the weight loss, it's just the fact that you're consuming fewer calories. So according to them, whether you're having grapefruits, cabbage soup, or whatever else you're having, it doesn't really matter what you're eating as long as that you're in a calorie deficit. So that reason is because people have always argued for flexible dieting, which I also support to a certain extent. So now let's get into the second part. Are calories actually equal? Now let me give you the nuance as to why calories might not all be equal. All calories are not equal. A calorie is not just a calorie. Reason number one, food has a thermic effect. By that I'm referring to the energy that your body uses to digest that food. The energy it uses to digest and absorb and metabolize the nutrients that you've eaten. Now the interesting thing is that different macros have different thermic effects. If you look at protein, we're talking about a thermic effect of about 20% to 30%. So if you eat 100 calories of protein, it means that 20% to 30% of that food is just going into digesting the protein that you've eaten. But when you look at something like carbohydrates, we're talking about a thermic effect of 5 to 10%. And then with fats, we're talking about a thermic effect of 0 to 3%, which is not insignificant, but it's very minimal. So if you're looking at protein, 20% to 30% versus fats, 0 to 3%, you can see that there's a difference. All of these macros are important, but the thermic effect they have is going to be different. So if someone is consuming a high protein diet, the thermic effect of that food is going to be higher than that of someone who's consuming a high fat diet or a high carb diet. And that's why many people who take on a high protein diet experience faster weight loss and more sustainable weight loss compared to people who are on high carb or high fat diets. It's not that the calories are not equal, it's because of the thermic effect of the food that they're eating. Number two is the hormonal response that foods trigger. What you get from protein is going to be different from what you get from fats and what you get from carbs. So what are we talking about here? Your food will affect your metabolism, your fat storage, and your appetite. When you eat foods that are high in carbs, you notice that you have a very high spike in blood sugar, and then it just comes crashing down. And when it comes crashing down, your appetite goes up because now you need something else to bring that energy back up. But when you eat a high protein diet, the energy release is a bit more sustained. So you notice that you're going to experience a very slow decline in your energy levels. And so when you eat consistently, like high carb, high fiber diets, you'll notice that your energy is pretty much the same throughout the day, as opposed to when you eat high carb or high carb diets and then it's just like these. And that means that your appetite is going to go up and down, and that's going to affect your hunger, and you'll end up eating more. Yes, a calorie is not just a calorie. And then to add to that, we have to talk about your satiety and fullness. Different macros fill us up differently. When you eat high protein and high fiber, you feel fuller for longer because these foods take a longer time to digest. When you eat high carb foods, then you realize that they digest very fast, especially when you're talking about simple carbohydrates. Those ones just digest very fast, and it's like within an hour you're already hungry. But if you had eaten a high protein diet, a high protein food, or a high fiber food, that will take longer for the stomach to digest. So you just keep feeling fuller for longer. Then let's talk about number 4, which is nutrient density. As much as 100 calories of an apple might look like 100 calories in a candy bar, they're going to offer you very different nutrients. When you're looking at a whole food, like an apple or a chicken breast, you're getting your vitamins, you're getting your minerals, you're getting a wide range of nutrients that are going to play a very vital role in your body, as opposed to a candy bar where you're probably just getting sugar and just very minimal nutrients. And over time, this has an effect on your body, because if you're continuously eating foods that do not have high nutrient levels, then you're going to be depleted in that aspect. You need these vitamins and minerals for your overall health. So the more that you're eating foods that are high in these vitamins and minerals, then you find that you're healthier, your metabolism is better, and you're just feeling overall better as a person, as opposed to when you're eating a fast food diet or any other ultra processed or highly processed food out there. Number 5, let's talk about your gut microbiome. And over the years, there has been a lot of research when it comes to gut microbiome, because researchers have found that our health, there's that gut-brain connection. And the healthier your gut microbiome, the healthier you are as a person. And now, here's the interesting thing. The composition of our gut bacteria depends very much on what we eat. If you're eating whole foods, you're eating a variety of foods, you're eating the whole rainbow, then you find that your gut microbiome is also going to be just as diverse as the food that you're eating. But when you're eating foods that are limited in their nutrients, then you find that your gut microbiome is also limited, and that affects very many things, including your digestion, your mood, your metabolism, and your overall health. If you're always eating foods that are very limited in their nutrients, that results in an imbalance in your gut microbiome, and that has been linked to several health issues, including obesity. So is there one school of thought that's better than the other? Are all calories equal, or are they not equal? The truth is, there's always need for nuance. We can say that all calories are equal because, yes, we cannot argue when it comes to calories in versus calories out. It works. It's been shown to work. Okay, we also cannot argue when it comes to thermodynamics. These facts are true. At the same time, we also need to consider the fact that food has a different thermic effect. It has different nutrient density. It has a different effect on our gut microbiome. It has a different effect on how hungry we feel. And it also has a different effect on our overall health. A calorie is not just a calorie. So how do we bring the two together so that we can enjoy the benefits of both schools of thought? First, we have to consider that a calorie is actually a unit of energy. It's true that if you're eating 2,000 calories of apples and someone else is eating 2,000 calories of bananas, and another one is eating 1,000, 2,000 calories of burgers, that you're all consuming 2,000 calories. And if you're all on a weight loss journey and you need to be taking 2,500 calories a day, and you're all consuming 2,000 calories of those different foods, then you're all going to be in a calorie deficit, because it's always what's calories in versus calories out. If there's a difference there and you're using more energy than you're consuming, then you end up in a calorie deficit and you lose weight. That is true. We will not dispute that. But there's something else that we need to consider. We have to consider that the foods that we eat will affect very different things. Our hormonal responses, how hungry we are after eating that food, and how satiated we are, how many nutrients we're taking in those foods, whether those foods are feeding our gut bacteria and enhancing our gut microbiome, and whether these foods are making us healthier in the long run. So how do we just bring all these together? First, you need to establish a calorie goal, because for you to be in a calorie deficit, you have to understand your maintenance level, and then you have to calculate what you need to cut from that. Usually we work with a very slight to moderate deficit, because we also don't want to stress your body too much. But let's say that your maintenance calories are 2,000, then maybe you can take away 250 to 500 calories from that, and then you decide your calorie goal. So let's say you're 2,000, you're going to go down to 1,700 calories a day. That's your calorie goal to help you achieve that deficit. That's following principle number one, where we're talking about calories in versus calories out. So now what's the second thing you do? Figure out your macros. We've found out that protein, carbs, and fats have very different thermic effects. They have, those nutrients have very different goals in our bodies. They have different effects on our hunger and satiety levels. They affect our hormones differently. They're all very important to us, because like your carbs give you energy, your proteins help you repair your body, your fats are essential for hormonal health. All of these are important, but how many of these do you need? If you're a very active person, you might need more carbs than the average person. But for everyone else, you don't really need carbs to live. They are good, they taste great. So if you want them, you can have them, but you don't really need them. You can optimize your proteins and your fats. But if you want your carbs, you can also have them there. So you can decide, maybe you're going to do 20% of carbs, or up to 40% or 50%, 20 to 30% of protein, and maybe 20 to 30% of fats. Just choose your macro level. So you know you're hitting 1,700 calories, and you're going to do these fractions for each macro. Third, you have to think about your micronutrients. We're not just going to focus on our proteins, our fats, and our carbs. We also have to think about micronutrients, and by these I'm talking about your vitamins and your minerals. So what vitamins do you need? What minerals do you need? These you're going to get from your fruits and your vegetables, which are also going to work to increase your fiber intake. So maybe you can have maybe 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, and that will address these. When you're choosing your fruits and vegetables, always go for a rainbow instead of just focusing on one thing, because again, we want to feed your gut microbiome and increase the diversity. So if you're just eating one type of food, whether you're always eating bananas, yes, you'll get your potassium and your other minerals and vitamins from that, but you're only feeding your microbiome just one thing. So you need to think about, today you're having bananas, tomorrow maybe you have avocados, the next day watermelons. Just vary your fruits and vegetables. And that also goes for your macros. Instead of just always having chicken, add some fish in there. Just try to work with different foods, because that diversity is also going to reflect in your gut microbiome, and that's going to make you healthy in the long run, so that you can also escape that gut microbiome imbalance that's been linked to several diseases. So now let's look at this practically. Let's assume we have two people here, person A and person B. Person A needs to eat 2,000. No, we said 1,700. 1,700 calories a day to get into that deficit and lose weight. Then person B is also on that 1,700 calorie diet. But again, these are just random figures. You have to calculate your maintenance calories based on your actual individual needs. And those come down to your height, your weight, your gender, how active you are. There are very many factors that go into that. So what works for person A might not work for person B. But in this case, we're assuming they are the same person in every aspect. The only difference is how they approach their foods. So person A follows a fast food diet, and they also focus on highly processed and ultra processed foods. They're always getting burgers. Their idea of breakfast maybe is skipping it, or they just have a latte and a bagel. And then there's person B who has focused on what we've said. They know that they're supposed to hit 1700 calories, and then they've decided that their macros are going to be like 40, 30, and 30. So they're doing 40% carbs, they're doing 30% protein and 30% fats. They've also decided to sprinkle in, no, not sprinkle in, throw in so many fruits and vegetables in their day. So at the end of the day, they know that they are getting enough protein, enough carbs, enough fats. And as a result of this, person A, who is on a very highly processed diet, will be experiencing sugar spikes, and then the crashes, spikes and crashes, spikes and crashes. It will affect them in very many ways, including their mood, their hunger levels. And it's going to be very hard for them to stick to this diet, because when you're following 1700 calories and then you're just eating maybe pizza and burgers, maybe with 4 slices you're already at 1000 calories. And then maybe one burger, 700 calories, and that depends on the type of burger, because some burgers will definitely go over 1000. That's not enough food. You're probably going to need more food, and that's going to make you go over your limit. But let's assume they don't. And in this case, this person is eating very nutritious foods. They have sweet potatoes, they have eggs, they have full fat milk. I always advocate for full fat. Get that full fat. They're eating all of these highly nutritious foods that are minimally processed, and as a result, they just feel like they're just sailing through, because their energy levels are stable throughout the day. So now, in that case, this person is going to have a hard time meeting their calorie deficit. This person is going to have an easy time. They might not even need to hit 1700, but they probably will, just to make sure they're eating enough protein so that they don't lose muscle. But no, the next thing we have to look at is their overall health. This person is eating foods that are very minimal when it comes to vitamins and minerals, which means that they are very low in micronutrients. This person is eating food that's offering them a variety of micro and macronutrients. As a result, their health is going to be better than person A. And person A is going to probably not only have a hard time maintaining that deficit, but they're also going to notice that their health goes down. And that's when you start getting issues such as Ozempic face. Because Ozempic face does not just come from Ozempic, it also comes from losing weight fast without prioritizing your protein. So if you start losing your muscle mass, then you start looking a bit gaunt, and that's not something that many people want. Maybe some people want that, but if person A does not want that, it will be easier to switch to these diets that person B is following, which is more wholesome, it's more sustainable, it's something that you can follow for a long time. It's not going to leave you feeling hungry or moody. So that's what it looks like. Yes, from a calorie standpoint, 1700 is 1700. But what this 1700 does for this person is going to be very different from what it does for this person, which is why calories are not equal. So when it comes to it, at the end of the day, you have to think about the quality of food that you're eating. It's not just about where the calorie count is, because it's very easy for you to hit your calorie deficit, but you're compromising very different aspects, including your hormonal balance, your gut microbiome, your satiety level, and so many other things that maybe we did not cover in this video. Calories are not just calories. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more about other health myths that are out there and very many questionable weight loss strategies that people use, you can always follow this channel. I also have a program called Better in 90, which is all about small and practical sustainable changes that you can make to not only lose weight but also feel better. We don't think that all calories are equal there. Instead, we look at the effect that food will have on you as a person, not just on your mental health, because when your mood is down, it's just affects everything, not just on your mental health, but also your physical health and your social health. We work to create a system that you can use forever. It's not just a diet, this is a lifestyle change that you can follow forever. And if you're looking for a very quick way to boost your metabolism, I have this program which just boosts your metabolism within a month. And once again, all calories are not equal there. You will find that it focuses more on whole and nutritious foods because we want to increase that gut microbiome diversity so that you can feel better. So now that brings us to the end of this video today, and I'd like it if you hit subscribe and like the video so that you can be there when we cover our next myth, because this is going to be a very long series. There are so many myths and misconceptions out there when it comes to weight loss, and I'm just here to simplify everything. Until next time, bye bye.